We are live. Josh, you got to chew because I'm going to ask you to pray. We're live too, Josh. We're, just... What's it like over there? It's very humid. I do. It's getting rainy over here. Ready? All right.
Lord, thank you for bringing us here tonight, Lord. Thank you for your word. Help us to not just hear your word, Lord, but let it penetrate our hearts and let us apply what you hear today, Father. We'll hear today. Please, Drake, preach the word here clearly to us. Let your word be magnified, Father. We love you. Give you the glory.
Amen. Okay. I'll read again tonight. So we're gonna go through 12 and 13. So Deuteronomy 12 and 13. These are the statutes and rules. Hey, Sam. Okay, we got to stop. I know you're putting them away, but it's too loud. So go sit down. These are the statutes and the rules that you shall be careful to do in the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess. All the days that you live on the earth, you shall surely destroy all the places where the nations whom you shall dispossess serve their gods, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. You shall tear down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Ashram with fire. You shall chop down the carved images of their gods and destroy their name out of that place. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, but you shall seek the place that the Lord your God will choose out of all of your tribes to put his name and make his habitation there. There you shall go, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and your contribution that you present, your vow offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and your flock. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your households, and all that you undertake in which the Lord your God has blessed you. You shall not do according to all that we are doing here today, everyone doing whatever is right in his own eyes. For you have not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance that the Lord your God is giving you. But when you go over the Jordan and live in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, and when he gives you the rest from all of your enemies around so that you live in safety, then to the place that the Lord your God will choose to make his name dwell there, there you shall bring all that I command you, all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and your contribution that you present, and all your finest vow offerings that you vow to the Lord. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters, your male servants and your female servants, and the Levite that is within your towns, since he has no portion or inheritance with you. Take care that you do not offer your burnt offerings at any place that you see, but at the place that the Lord will choose in one of your tribes. There you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I am commanding you. However, you may slaughter and eat meat within any of your towns as much as you desire, according to the blessing of the Lord your God that he has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, as of the gazelle and as of the deer. Only you shall not eat the blood. You shall pour it out on the earth like water. You may not eat within your towns the tithe of your grain, or of your wine, or of your oil, or of your firstborn, or of your herd, or of your flock, or of any of your vow offerings that you vow, or your freewill offerings, or the contribution that you present. But you shall eat them before the Lord your God in the place that the Lord your God will choose. You and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your towns. You shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all that you undertake. Take care that you do not neglect the Levite as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God enlarges your territory, as he had promised you, and you say, I will eat meat, because you crave meat, You may eat meat whenever you desire. If the place that the Lord your God will choose to put his name there is too far from you, then you may kill any of your herd or your flock which the Lord has given you. As I have commanded you, you may eat within your town wherever you desire. Just as the gazelle or the deer is eaten, so you may eat of it. The unclean and the clean alike may eat of it. Only be sure that you do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you shall not eat the life with the flesh. You shall not eat it, you shall not pour, or you shall pour it out on the earth like water. You shall not eat it, that all may go well with you and with your children after you. When you do what is right in the sight of the Lord, but the holy things that are due from you and from your vow offerings you shall take, and you shall go up the place that the Lord will choose, and offer your burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood, on the altar of the Lord your God. The blood of your sacrifices shall be poured out on the altar of the Lord your God, but the flesh you may eat. Be careful to obey all these words that I command you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever, when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord. When the Lord your God cuts off before you the nations whom you go in to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take care that you be not ensnared to follow them after they have been destroyed before you, and that you do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? That I may also do the same. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abominable thing that the Lord hates they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire of their gods. Everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add to it or take from it. If a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass, and if he says, let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God with fear, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and you shall serve him and hold fast to him. But that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has taught rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of slavery, to make you leave in the way which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. If your brother, the son of your mother, your own son, or your daughter, or the wife you embrace, or your friend, who is as your own soul, entices you secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, some of the gods of the peoples who are around you, whether near you or far off from you, from the one end of the earth to the other, you shall not yield to him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pity him, nor shall you spare him, nor shall you conceal him, but you shall kill him. Your hand shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. You shall stone him to death with stones, because he sought to draw you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And all Israel shall hear and fear, and never again do any such wickedness as this among you. If you hear in one of your cities, which the Lord your God is giving you to dwell there, that certain worthless fellows have gone out among you and have drawn away the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which you have not known, then you shall inquire and make search and ask diligently. And behold, if it be true and certain that such an abomination has been done among you, you shall surely put the inhabitants of that city to the sword, devoting it to destruction, all who are in it and its cattle, with the edge of the sword. You shall gather all its spoil into the midst of its open square, and burn the city and all its spoil with fire, as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. It shall be a heap forever. It shall be guilt, or it shall not be built again. None of the devoted things shall stick in your hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy, and have compassion on you and multiply you, as he swore to your fathers. If you obey the voice of the Lord your God, keeping all his commandments that I am commanding you today, and doing what is right in the sight of the Lord your God. All right. Kind of heavy stuff. 12 and 13. All right. Well, we're coming off of 5 through 6, which God is reminding Israel how much he loves them and his intent for them to dwell in the land and have all these blessings. And he's warning them, reminding them of the first commandment, the commandment of commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, which is have no other gods before me. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohimu Adonai Echad. The Lord your God is one to you. This is the only God for you. And he's warned us, Moses has warned us through God's commandments that there are 3 unique idols that can tempt you. And that's kind of what he's been warning about since chapter 5 all the way through chapter 11. And now in chapter 12, we're going to get a explication of the 10 commandments. Really a commentary, you might say. It is, if you were to take Calvin's commentaries off your shelf and see what the godly man has to say about a certain text, except we have Moses, which is God's spokesperson. So we have God's spokesperson who's going to give us a commentary on the very commandments that we have a short list of in Deuteronomy 5 and in Exodus as well. And you might think, oh, we were done with the first commandment. Well, we're not quite done with the first commandment yet. He's going to explicate for us the first commandment and what that looks like in the land. How are you to obey it? What are these statutes that are going to flow out of this one commandment and the things that you're doing in as you cross the Jordan? So what really Deuteronomy 12, chapter 12 through 26 is going to teach us, all these commandments is going to teach us this one thing. If I can summarize all of the teaching into one phrase, it would be this: the obedient life is faithful dying. The obedient life is faithful dying, which is really important when we think about what Hebrews has been teaching us. The obedient life is faithful dying, is the patriarchs waiting for the promise, who have died waiting for the promise, not having it fully been given to them, and they faithfully have obeyed God. So the obedient life as faithful dying is what Moses is going to teach us. And what you're going to see throughout these chapters is that in the abundance of the land, all the things that God is going to give them through the animals and the water and the crops and the land that's flowing with milk and honey, the way that people are going to live is by giving up the very things that God is giving them as an abundance. It's actually going to be not holding on to the things that God has given them that is actually going to give them life. Not hoarding and storing up and cutting off and building fences around the things that God has given them. It's actually to let them go. There's not many good things about Star Wars, in the philosophical religious idea, but there is a scene where Yoda is with Anakin, and Anakin's in turmoil, right? And he says, "You fear, or you what drives your fear is the things you can't let go." And in one sense, that's true. All the things, all the treasures that God has given us, they're not for us to withhold. They are absolutely for us to give. Okay. So therefore, I want to quickly just outline the 5 kind of sacrifices, because in chapter 12, he lists all the sacrifices that Israel is going to do in the place that God determines where he's going to be worshiped. But I want you, as I go through these 5 sacrifices, I just wanted you to see the communal nature of them. All right, so we got 5 main offerings. We got the burnt offering, which is called the Olah offering, the cereal offering, which is the Miknah, the peace offering, the Shelamim offering, the purification offering, which is the Chatat offering, and the guilt offering, which is the Asham. So the first one, just the burnt offering that God says, hey, bring to me all the your cereal offerings, your grain offerings that you're going to bring as a burnt offering. The olah is a ritual distinctive, is an enticing offering that is to be burned as a pleasing aroma to God. It is to invoke the very presence of God as we bring our first fruits to the temple and give it as an offering to invoke God himself, and a pleasing aroma. So that's we're going to be using our things that God has given us to invoke him, right? So the gifts, the land, the cattle, the goats, the grain, the vines, the grapes, all of that is going to be brought as a burnt offering for the Lord. We have the miknah offering, which is what Cain and Abel brought to the Lord. Jacob and Esau brought miknah offerings, which are like tribute offerings. So if you want to just give a tribute to the Lord because you love him and because you want to show that you trust him, this is what this kind of offering would be, a tribute offering. And its distinctives are grains are offered, part is given to God, and part are given to the priests. So when we bring sacrifices to God, everything we bring is actually distributed to God, either by being a burnt offering, to the priests, right? Who are supposed to take care of the priests? It's the people. They are to bring most of the sacrifices, unless it's a sacrifice of purification or a sin sacrifice. It is shared either with the priests or with the offerer, the one that brought the offering. They bring the bull or goat as a tribute, free will offering, or grain, and they feast with God. Literally, that's what it is. These offerings are feasts. And in these feasts, you're not just gorging yourself. Everyone's eating. The priests are eating. So everyone is, in their sacrifices, what they're bringing, are taking care of one another. And even the guilt offerings, the chatat and the, which is more like the Kippur sacrifices. But these are all given for the entire family of Israel, all the tribes. So therefore we have the opening of verse 12, which is, these are the statutes and the rules that you shall be careful to do in the land. And the first thing that God is going to do is say, when you go into the land, you first have to dispossess the wicked. You have to remove all of their high places. You have to remove the evil in your midst. This is such a great image for us with our sin, right? When God saves us, the command is to go into the land and get rid of all of the idols that are inside of you. All the idols that you have, they don't own you anymore. God does. Now go into the land and wipe them out. Get rid of all of it. Because God has a stake in you now. Nobody else does. So he tells Israel, the first thing you're going to do, and it's the first thing they're going to do when they go over there, is wipe them out. The high places got to go. The altars, dash them into pieces. Their pillars, burn the Asherims with fire. You shall chop down the carved images and their gods and destroy their name out of the place. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. Don't worship God as the world worships their gods. That's not how Yahweh is worshipped. And that means you can't design your own religion to worship the God that you desire. Yahweh, Christ, dictates how he is to be worshipped. And we obey because we know that he is the only true God and he is the God of life. And I want that because God has restored us. He's restored our very natures to desire him. So therefore, I want to worship him as he wants me to. And therefore you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your households, and all that you undertake in which the Lord your God has blessed you. So after you remove the wicked, then God says this, but you shall seek the place that the Lord your God will choose out of all your tribes to put his name and make his habitation there. There you shall go. So after everything is removed, God says, then you're going to worship where I call you now. I'm going to set my place up, and that's where you're going to go. Again, you can't decide this. I can't decide this. God does. And we might think of like a geographical location here that Moses, or what Moses is saying that God is telling him to the people is, find a geographical location for me to dwell and then go there. While that does happen, we know that the temple of God is built in Jerusalem and there is a geographical location. God is not interested in that sense of going to a particular place. He's interested in a particular action that you're doing. Because the next thing he's going to do is saying, in this place that I called you to go to, this is where you bring all your offerings. This is how, and this is where you go to take care of one another. If you're either in this local place where the tabernacle is, or you're in the wilderness far away and you can't get to this tabernacle, you still got to take care of each other out in the wilderness, which is why he's going to bring up the deer and the elk that you kill, and you can eat their meat, and you still take care of one another out there. But don't eat the things that you vow for the sacrifices, because that's what you're going to bring to the tribe to share with everybody. But you still got to take care of it. You going to sit over here? Okay. Just leave the stool right there. You're going to knock into the mic. It doesn't matter where you are, right? God is going to meet you in your righteous acts that you're doing in the midst of God's people. That's what he's interested in telling Israel here in chapter 12. You get rid of the evil places, you set up God's place, and for us, there's only one place that we're going to meet God, and that's in the church. That's where God dwells. And God dwells in his living temples, which is you, and God is going to show up when we gather. And he's going to show up when we gather around his word. He's going to show up when we gather and we love one another, and we bring the sacrifices to the altar in the new covenant way, which is sacrificial love, which is pouring ourselves out. It's giving away the things that God has given us as blessings. We don't have herds and huge farms in Las Vegas. We have houses and food and money and pipes that break that people need help fixing. That's what happened to the Hodges or something. Or we have, people that are trying to trying to find vocations, and we have wise fatherly men that are guiding other Christians into fulfilling their roles as fathers. These are the sacrifices that we gather around after we've removed the evil, and the evil can't come back. There's no place for the Asherahs. There's no place for their altars here. We don't worship God in that way. So anyone that's going to say that I have my own church somewhere else, I don't need the people of God, I don't need somebody's wisdom, I just have my Bible in me, they are actually rebelling against Moses and therefore rebelling against Christ. Because if you knew Moses, you would know Christ. And nobody knows Moses. Because everyone's like, oh, he's talking about Jerusalem. You got to go to Jerusalem to honor God. That's what he said. No, he's not talking about that. Nobody knows what he's even talking about. There, you can read the scholarship and watch the debate. It's Jerusalem. It's this. It's Zion. It's blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. What God is picturing is that wherever you are righteous to one another, where you are just, you are bringing the sacrifices, there God will be. There the altars will be. And there God will be pleased with you. In verse 10 of chapter 3, he says, but when you go over the Jordan and live in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, and when he gives you the rest from all your enemies around so that you live in safety, then to the place that the Lord your God will choose to make his name dwell there, you shall bring all that I commanded you. And this is where you can say, bring all your offerings, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices. Those five, the olam, and these are all korban, right? This is when Christ says in the New Testament, and when he brings up korban, it's a generic word for sacrifice. So any korban that we're going to bring to God, it's got to be in the context of the church. So in one way, think of all that you have as available to God's church. All that you have is available to it. That doesn't mean you just give everything to it without question, right? There's context and there's wisdom and all of that. And that comes through elders and relationships and wisdom and all that stuff. But it is open. You are a vessel that says, whatever is required of me, the church receives. Joyfully, I will give it. And that's where the Lord's going to be. And all your finest vow offerings that you vow to the Lord, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters and your male servants. And you see, so he connects the sacrifices with all the servants. Who gets blessed by these sacrifices? It's not just God receiving them like he needs them. We're not giving the burnt offerings and we're not giving the whole grains so that God metaphysically receives these things and everyone leaves hungry. Everyone is feasting with God. So when you give your money, right, sometimes it might feel like you get nothing back. You get, right? It feels that way sometimes. They might have, maybe there's that temptation. Well, there definitely was that temptation to, when you're bringing the first fruits to the temple, how much of those good grapes am I going to actually partake in? How many are the Levites going to get and how many am I going to get? But you get so much. There's more in what others receive from your gift than what you receive from what you give, right? So there's so much happening when we joyfully give to God's people and watch them feast off what we bring them and the best of what we bring. We don't give each other the second bits. Because whatever I give you is what ultimately I'm giving to God. Now, if I give you second-class things, I'm giving God second-class things. If I give myself first-class things, then you know who I'm worshiping. Yeah, Barbie. Yeah. Yeah, so Paul talks about us as living sacrifices. So all of the Korban are us, are what we bring to one another. So like tonight, the food, right? Yeah. Serving is sacrifice. Anything that takes from you, that empties yourself out, and the building up of others is now how you live as a sacrifice. So the goats and the grain and the old were how that worked. Now in the new, it's actually you because you're the temple. So there's nothing to bring a gift to other than the temple, which is us. So you're bringing it to one another. And therefore, God is glorified and worshipped through that, just as he was worshipped through the old sacrifices. And then he says, take care that you do not offer your burnt offerings at any place that you see. This is man, if there's any emphasis on the neighbor argument, here it is. Don't just give your sacrifices to whoever you feel like deserves it. Your stuff is for the people of God. You don't determine where it goes. Why would Christ even said this, why would you spread your riches before swine? That's not the gospel, right? The riches aren't the gospel. You give the gospel to the unbeliever. That's what it's for. It is your stuff. Like, you don't decide where to bring it. You bring your sacrifices where God has said it belongs. But at that place, the Lord you will choose in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do that I am all that I'm commanding you. So you see, obeying the first commandment means establishing God where he demands it. And for us, it is our lives. He has demanded, he has bought us. It's not even demand. He has literally ransomed you. So worship, do, and offer all the things where God prescribes to do those things. And then he's going to just say how you're going to take care of one another when you're in distant places. However, you may slaughter and eat meat within any of your towns as much as you desire, according to the blessing of the Lord. So again, all the stuff that God is going to give them as they expand in the land and their territory is getting wider and they're building other cities, that they have to take care of one another. So they're free to eat of the meat of what God gives them. And not in a ritualistic way. This is confusing when we're not tying the killing of animals to the ritual practice of sacrifice, because typically when you're going to kill an animal, it's sacrificial. And it's got to go through a ritual, because for the Hebrew, blood is life. For the pagan, blood is death. For the Hebrew, blood is life. That's why it has to go through the ritual of turning the sacrifice of the animal into a purifying, life-giving event. So this is why the meat is you can eat the meat, but don't drink the blood, because the blood is the life. So you pour it out like water. Right? This is how you're going to. This how it's not turned into like a killing. This is still picturing the life-giving aspect of the animal being killed to sustain God's people. So he talks about the gazelle for those outside. Only you shall not eat the blood. So there's not eating the blood. And then he says, take care that you not neglect the Levite as long as you live in your land when the Lord your God enlarges your territory. As they spread out, don't forget the priests. That's an easy application to the church. Do I even need to go into that? Do I need to apply that here? Tony's like, yes. All right. Who are the Levites? Who are picture the Levites now? It's elders, right? Elders, their sole occupation is to give you the word of God, is to give you the water, give you the meats, right? To do all the things that God is saying to admonish them with. The role of Moses, but now Moses has many mouths because Christ is the final word, and Christ has given the Spirit to many men to do this. So don't neglect the elders. Make sure they have everything they need, and not just to the decimal point 00, and all the bills are just perfectly met. Even more than they require. Do you think the Levites were just drinking like the little last bits of wine in the cup? Were they eating the last bits of meat? No, they were eating a lot. They were definitely getting more than they needed. And that should be our joy. That should be our joy as the people of God, is to take care of the ones that are maturing us and fashioning us into the citizens of heaven. What a joy to sustain and fulfill them. Now that's abused by people that are in it for the money, because I think there is a sliver of truth that the elder, the Levite, is honored. And sometimes that comes with financial honoring. And that is a lucrative and very tempting idea, because the life of a pastor can be very comfortable. It's kind of like it's in America, we love entrepreneurship, and the pastor is like the ultimate entrepreneur. It's almost like you can build an empire, right? Steve Jobs, yeah, he makes an iPhone, but I can make people drink Kool-Aid and kill themselves. Big, right? There's a lot of power in abusing this office. So it can be abused. However, that shouldn't restrict us from fully, when we have godly elders, wise elders, to admonish them and not admonish them, fill them up with gifts. What's the word I'm looking for? Honor them. Okay. Yeah. You can admonish me. Yeah. And so my offering plate's right over there. No, just kidding. Okay. Don't neglect the Levite. And then he talks again about the gazelle, taking care of one another. But the holy things that are due from you and your vow offerings you shall take, you shall go in the place that your Lord will choose. So again, this is saying all the things that you're eating to sustain one another. Again, don't eat the things that you vowed to the temple. And that's typically for like the Levites. And again, those are the first fruits. So the Levites are getting some pretty good meals, which they should. And then Moses says, be careful to obey all these words that I command you, that it may go well with you, with your children after you forever, when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God. So he gives these commandments right after he talks about, hey, make 2 monuments, one mountain of blessing and one mountain of dishonor or of curse. Gerizim is the mountain of blessing, and then Ebal, thank you, is the mountain of curse. So Moses has just built on those mountains the monument of blessing. The monument of blessing is the sacrificial outpouring of all the abundance that Israel is going to receive in the land. So Christians, all the abundance that Christ is going to give you in this land that we're in now as sojourners, sacrificially give it to one another and don't look back. Because when you do, God says, if you obey these words that I command you, it will go well with you and for your children after you forever. And now we're going to get the warning against, again, idolatry. And it's going to turn into the enemy within. Oh, Alexander, I'm getting text from your dad on this computer. Oh, sorry. 29. When the Lord your God cuts off before you the nations whom you go in to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take care that you are not ensnared to follow them after they have been destroyed before you, and that you do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods, that I may do the same? So this is the temptation, not to displace God totally. The temptation is not to say, well, Yahweh is not good enough. The temptation is to say, let's add more to the pantheon. Let's add to Yahweh. Yahweh gives me this. Yahweh gave me the land, but this God can give me crops that never fail. This God can give me cattle that will never, that will give me the best offspring, or I will have the best children, or I will have the best fortunes if I just add these gods around them, because that's what these other gods are offering. And so then that's going to be very tempting, especially when in the land they might have a season that they don't get what they expect. Well, that nation got a lot. Look at the abundance of that nation. Their God must have something that our God doesn't. Let's add them into the group. How ubiquitous is that in our time? We have gods in every street corner that we can add to the pantheon. It's everywhere. It's such a temptation for this all the time. Calvin says we're idol factories. We even create gods that that these nations would never have known of. So we always have to be on guard. And the way we're protected from that is what we're doing right now. The church, remember, the church is protection for you. And the temple, the tabernacle for Israel, is protection for them. And their righteous actions are protection for them. Because if they remember the first commandment, they're going to say, it doesn't matter what those gods have. My God is the one true God. There is no other God. My God went to Egypt and wiped out their gods. Who else has done something like that? Our God has come to the United States and saved us when he died on a cross outside of Jerusalem. What other God has that kind of reach? That God saves people that have never even seen that land before. God's hand is everywhere. The true God's hand is everywhere. The Israelite that knows that is going to remember the first commandment and not ask that question. What are the other gods doing? You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, right? The way that the pagan nations are doing it. For every abominable thing that the Lord hates, they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire of their gods. I mean this metaphorically, but even physically as well, because when we bring other gods into our lives, it could actually lead us to kill our own children. But relationally to God, when we bring foreign gods into our homes, we are sacrificing our children. We are taking them. It's basically taking them to the altar of Molech. Yeah, you're not physically taking them there and killing them, but you are killing them, because they won't worship Yahweh. They will leave and then they'll die, and it'll be because of you. For everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add or take away from it. So 13. And now this is where the threat of idolatry is like in the camp. What do we do when it's the very people of God tempting us away? If a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, I'm not sure what a dreamer of dreams is versus a prophet. I think it might be just a synonym, like just emphasizing anyone that comes as a prophet after the school of prophets, or someone that might come after Moses that says they're the prophet after Moses or something like that. Or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass. So if you have somebody that is telling you all this stuff and it comes true, they have this amazing power to actually say correct things, enticing things that would make you possibly question, oh, are they a prophet of God? They're not giving false prophecy in that sense, but says, and if he says, let us go after other gods which you have not known, and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or the dreamer of dreams. This is probably the most dangerous thing in the Christian world. We have prophets all over the place that are saying the right stuff. Things that they can just quote the Bible and you're like, yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. But then later they're going to be like, and let's go worship this other guy. Come on with me. And a lot of times we're like, yeah, because you said all this right stuff. This is why we need to know God really well. Because when people come in his name and say the right things and want to lead us astray in the end, that's their goal. It's going to be really hard for us to say no unless by the grace of God and his teaching and instruction and safety in the church, we see that is not the voice of God. That is the voice of a false prophet. Yeah, Barbie. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, so I would say, like, even in the New Testament, Paul makes this allusion with the spiritual gifts. Just because you have a spiritual gift that God is using in the church doesn't mean doesn't even mean you're saved. If you have all these gifts but no love, doesn't matter. If you have all these right things to say, but then say, hey, let's go after another God, doesn't matter. You deserve to die just as much. So if you have a spiritual gift in the church that's beneficial, but you have no love, you're like this false prophet. And that's what Paul says. Even if he died, like, I could give him my body. And if I have love, what does he say? It's something. It's a little thing. He says it's nothing. And that's what this prophet would be. Someone who has actual gift that might be beneficial. He's saying true things, but he has no love. He actually wants to kill you. And we have to guard ourselves from that. Everything we do has to be rooted in love. That's the whole chapter 12. Everything you do, you come to me to take care of one another because I love you and you love me. And chapter 13 is like the Mormon go-to. This is very helpful if you do talk to a Mormon. And first thing you want to say is, Joseph Smith is a false prophet. You know what happens to false prophets? Go to chapter 13 and just read it. Even the ones that say true things, that say, come and worship another God, deserve to die. And that's what Joseph Smith does. Anyway. But it's more than that. It's more than just prophets, right? So we have that, and you should not listen to the words of that prophet or the dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you. You remember what a test is? Going back to a couple weeks ago, what's a test? Is it designed to show you what you do know or what you don't know? So what it's supposed to show you what you don't know. And it even says that flat out. The Lord's testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. And there are going to be times when you might say, ooh, I didn't. Nope. I did not pass the test. Now, when you're in God's hand, there's no way no one can pluck you out. So if you follow that path of the false prophet, God's going to send someone to take you out of the fire before you get burned. but he will test you, and we will have. I think our church situation from a couple years ago was a test, and it was following people that said seemingly right things and sounded logical, but at the end of the day, they said, "Follow me to this bad place," and we had to say no. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him and keep his commandments and obey his voice. You notice that it's obey his voice. Who's the voice that he's talking about? I mean, Moses is saying God's voice, but who is speaking for God at this moment? It's Moses. It's listen to Moses. Now, Hebrews says, look, many times, many ways, the Lord spoke to us through our fathers. But in these last days, he's spoken to us by his son. The Father says about Jesus, this is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. This is the voice. This is the voice that you have to listen to in order not to fall into the trap of the false prophets. If you listen to obey his voice, you shall serve him and hold fast to him. But the prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death because he has taught rebellion against the Lord. And this is obviously church discipline. Anyone that does that, they're going to be removed from the church. Put him to death because he rebelled against the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And you want to know why? It might be harsh. It might sound harsh that we remove these prophets, but who's the one that brought you out of the land of slavery, of sin? Did that prophet take you out of there? What did that prophet do for you? Nothing. God's the one that saved you. You listen to his voice, nobody else's. And so this is why he's going back into the historical premise of what he's done for them. Again and again, we always got to remember what God has done for us. That is such a backbone of when we're being tested and tempted. It's like, okay, go back to what God has done. Yeah.
It's by their fruits.
Yeah.
By their actions, not by their teachings.
Right.
It's the moment that they start trying to draw you into doing something that rebels against God.
Yep.
And this is why the most dangerous false prophets, all their teaching is, doctrinally perfect until that one moment where they ask you to do something ethically that is in rebellion to God.
Yep. And this is the classic, and I hate to bring this up, but this is such a parallel, but this is the classic like groomer who is the person you trust, that we had no qualms, questions, and they groom your children and they wait for that moment to strike. Right? They say all the right things, they look their part, they're perfect, and then it's that fruit, right? And then it's destructive. It just in a moment it can destroy people. And yeah, it's the same idea. It's like, yeah, and sometimes, yeah, I mean, wise men fall into this trap. They listen to these guys and they fall in, and no one's immune to it. The only way we're going to be protected is being in the midst of wise men and in the protection of the church, because there is a way to protect yourself. Just like there is a way to protect your children from those predators, there's a way to protect yourself from those wolves. You're not just a helpless sheep. There is a protection. You have to stay in it. You have to stay in it. And he's going to go even deeper, okay? So first, he talks about yourself, right? You might tempt yourself. Hey, what about these other gods? And then he's going to say, okay, don't listen to yourself, and then also don't listen to these prophets who might say the right things. And then he's going to expand it even more. He's going to say, if your brother, the son of your mother, or your own son, or your own daughter, or your wife you embrace, or your friend who is your own, this is crazy, your own soul entices you to secretly saying, let us go and serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known. I mean, he says, don't conceal them. They're dead. They have to be removed. So it's not just the stranger prophet that says all the right things. It's even our blood, right? Quote unquote blood, our biological parents, those closest to us that could be the very ones that are dragging us to the other gods. And even those relationships if they're pulling us that direction, have to be severed. Now, this is in the context of the people of God, right? This is in the nation. Pagans are going to try. Pagans are right. Pagans are going to do what pagans do. This isn't like, oh, is my pagan friend going to try to pull me in the other gods? Well, of course they are. They're in the midst of the other gods. But this is the one who has the white flag and is your friend, but it is tempting you to go the wrong direction. So Moses is just going to elaborate on what to do when those closest to us lead us astray. Harsh words, right? But you shall kill him. Your hand shall be the first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. Remember, Jesus isn't a different God, right? This isn't the angry version of God, and Jesus is the nice version of God. These things are still true today. The false doctrine, wolves cannot be tolerated. I don't care if they're my best friend. I brought up this in Hebrews. It's the relational warfare. We can't be duped by relational warfare. It is a toxic, insidious weapon. It is what do they call it in Afghanistan when you had like the soldiers turn on you, like blue on blue, or what do they call it? I can't remember what. Yeah, like it basically it's fratricide, right? They're sleeping next to you and they're plotting to kill you. And all Israel shall hear and fear and never do any such wickedness as this among you. Ananias and Sapphira are this example. All the church feared after that event happened, right? Because that can't be tolerated in the church. Just can't. If you hear in one of your cities, and then he's going to expand it even further. So you have yourself, a false prophet, your sons, your mothers, your family, and then he's going to expand it to your cities. If you hear in one of your cities, which the Lord your God is giving you to dwell there, and then certain worthless fellows have gone out among you and have drawn away to the inhabitants. So it's the same thing. So you see the response to every instance of wolves in the midst trying to lead God's people astray, it's cut off, dead. For you, if you're tempting yourself, you got to kill the sin. You got to get rid of that. You got to mortify it. If it's a false prophet, get rid of them. If it's even someone in your family member, you got to call them out. And if they don't repent, you got to separate that relationship. That's just, you have to do it. And now if it's even in a city, if it's like in a church that goes the wrong direction, an elder leads the church into just abominable heresy, sexual ethics out the door, or, even you can say like doctrinal things, but I'm talking about like ethical stuff that is just horrid, and saying, yeah, God's fine with us, grace, 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 we're all fine. No, it's not how this works. Repentance isn't a free gift to keep on sinning. If they don't turn, boom, that church is not a church anymore. It's synagogue of Satan. And he says, anyone in that city, if that's true, if they try to lead Israel astray and they find out, they're going to go wipe them out. And then none of the devoted things shall stick to your hand, that the Lord may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy and have compassion on you and multiply you as he swore to your fathers. If you obey the voice of the Lord your God, keeping all his commandments that I am commanding you today, and doing what is right in the sight of the Lord your God. These I don't want us to leave again with like the sense of the angry father that's just out to find everything we're doing wrong so he can chastise us. We have to understand the holiness of God. We have to understand that we need to be holy as he is holy if we are to have a relationship with him. And his desire is to make us that. That is his desire, and he's going to do that. We are being made holy. But these are the ways that we protect ourselves, our family, our church, and church is in the valley. It's how we actually protect this valley itself from the very demons that are trying to kill everyone. That we can continue to be a light, giving the gospel to save those that God has died for. These are the parameters that show God's love for us and for everybody else. And it's actually showing love to the brother or the false prophet or the one that is leading you astray, so that they can see the path of death that they're walking down, and perhaps they'll turn from it. So in chapter 12 and 13, we're getting the first look and the explication of the first commandment, how to actually put Yahweh first. This is how we put Yahweh first. And in the church, this is how we're going to continue to put Yahweh first. And this isn't a one-time only time. It's not you put Yahweh up first one time, and then you get all the benefits of that, that event you did 10 years ago. Every day we have to put Christ first. Every single day. And that's part of renewing our minds. That is confessing sins to one another. That is getting wisdom. That is being in relationships with one another. Doing all the things that Hebrews has been teaching us. All the things that Brian's been teaching us in the studies that he's been doing over the years that all y'all have been here, or the couple of years that all y'all have been here. So it's not to bring you down. It's to lift you up. But it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Some relationships might have to change. And we need to be on the lookout, right? People actually do desire to hurt us. And we have to protect one another. All right. Any other comments or questions? David, will you wrap us up?
Heavenly Father, I praise you and thank you for the opportunity to dive into your word. Hard work, so good to understand how holy and gracious you are. To show us